So you had gotten married and had your cottage. And what was your daily routine like at that point as a married woman?
Well, as a teenager, there were two other young wives in the camp. I was 17, one was 19, and one was 20. It happened their husbands were bosses. But I would go visit with them. But then I'd have to be home for lunch, get the fire going in the stove, and fix his lunch. So he tried to have pitchwood available so I could, build a fast fire. And sometimes it was sapwood and all I got was smoke. And then he'd have to go over to the cookhouse to eat, and all the guys would razz him, which they razzed him a lot about. I'd go swimming with the kids, and I wasn't grown up, although I thought I was. I didn't really learn to drive for years and years.
Mm-hmm.
Just, he was the man of the house, and he controlled everything. If he would give me $1, I had to account for every penny. And so when he said one time, we're living in California, every Sunday we went for a Sunday drive, and this one Sunday we had another couple with us, and the guys in the front seat, they're talking about going to welding school and getting a job in the shipyard. And I pipe up and said, that's what I want to do too. And I don't think he believed me. He certainly didn't approve of it. And I did it. I went to not right away, but I finally did it. I went to the employment office, I got my Social Security card, and was told to go to Richmond High School to learn to weld from 4 to 8 in the morning.
When you first started working, did you feel a sense of freedom all of a sudden? Or was it? It must have been hard work too.
It was hard physical work, and no, I didn't have freedom because I had a baby.
Mm-hmm.
And that was always a challenge for someone to take care of him.
Mm-hmm.
So the family was still in Oregon, and Marion came down to take care of him, and then she finished her senior year at high school there, and met somebody and got married, and then the next one came down. So it was a steady parade of relatives, and finally Mom came with my youngest sister,
mm-hmm.
and by then I wanted to get on graveyard shift so we could take turns in the bed. If I worked graveyard, then because Mom got a job in the shipyard in the
mm-hmm.
daytime, that covered the babysitting and the
mm-hmm.
sleeping arrangements.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the next big hurdle.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't want women on graveyard shift.
But can I ask you, did you and Bob become girlfriend and boyfriend, or were you just?
He was my boyfriend.
He was.
Yeah, and the guys, I can remember we'd get together and they'd say, hey, have you made out? And he says, no, she's too young and tender. She's not ready to surrender.
That's the saying they had.
That's what he would say to them, because he respected me a lot, because he
Nice.
knew what I wanted.
That's nice.
I told him, I says someday, and I thought that I was going to marry him. I says, I want a big wedding, and he'd say, "Oh, okay, fine," you know. But we didn't. It didn't end up like that. But we had wonderful times together, beautiful times together.
That's great.
So.
So did his family ever find out about you?
He never talked about his family.
Hmm.
Never talked about his family. I never asked him about his mother, father. I don't even know where he came from. All I knew was that he was Polish and that my mom and dad didn't like him.
But they knew about him.
They knew about him because they caught me with him one day. My dad did. Oh, let me tell you. And this was on cutting when we did the warehousing projects. When we were going to the recreation hall, he came, he was walking me from school, walking me home. And we were just talking. Oh, let me tell you, my dad let me have it. Because I was with this guy. And then he was Anglo. Right?
That was a big deal for your dad, huh?
For my dad. But not for my mom. I didn't know that my dad had feelings one way or the other, you see. Because his girls were never confronted with boyfriends, right? Because my sister back home, she married a Hispanic person, but then he was from there, you know. But anyway, okay, so he caught me with Bob, and so I told my mom, I says, Mom, I don't want to lie to you. He is my boyfriend. And I want you to know that I want to see him, and I want, and she says, I know, mija, but your dad, you know how he is. You know, he wanted me to meet a Hispanic person, not an Anglo. Excuse me. Well, anyway,
So
as the story goes, I told him, I says, I'm not going to lie to you. I said, but I'm going to see him. Because by this time I was already out of high school. And, you know, they're still, you know, holding the reins. And I wanted to be obedient. You know, I was always very obedient to them. And I had told my mother privately, I says, Mom, he's my boyfriend, and I'm going to see him. And of course, she understood. She understood.
Well, so you still didn't tell me what he said about Bob being Anglo. Do you remember some of his words?
Oh, okay. What did he say? He says, no me gusta ese lagartijo. He called him a lizard.
Okay. I don't like this lizard.
Yeah. That's what he said. Exactly. And it was just because he was Anglo. And he had to have something negative to say about him. But he was a very, very nice person. And I was very much in love with him. But it didn't end up like that, because then he got to a point where he had gone to Los Angeles and he wanted me to come down there. And I said, I can't. I says, you know how I feel. And he says, but I've got a beautiful ring for you over here. I says, nope. I says, that's not the idea.
And when we came back to California, we had to stop, and he had to work. He was a carpenter, doing electrician or something he did. And to work to make some money to get back here. He brought another couple back with him, his cousins.
It was just like put in your day, take care of the baby, and wait for my husband to come home. I couldn't go to the store. I couldn't do anything because he wouldn't give me any money.
That evening, just for him telling me who was there, the music, the dancing, and he'd tell me who he danced with and all this. And I looked forward to someday that I would be able to go.